So I recently finished Paper Mario the Origami King, and while I won't be giving it a real review, I'd like to share a few thoughts I have about it. I think what impressed me the most in terms of gameplay was just how fun the combat ended up being. Much like the last two Paper Marios, I think it could be argued that there isn't much incentive to battle from a utility perspective. I'd say you're basically set as far as coins go around halfway through the game, so it's really critical that the battle system itself is as great as it is. I think the devs just found a system that's intrinsically fun, satisfying, and allows for a lot of variation. I'd even say that the mechanics of sliding and spinning panels feels a bit like folding origami. At the very least, I think it fits the game's theme pretty well. Towards the end of the game, some of the basic enemy encounters had me pulling my hair out. The difficulty ramps up pretty well, I'd say, with occasional spikes throughout. It really speaks to the strength of the core concept that a system as seemingly simple as this slide puzzle design is able to sustain itself over the course of an entire game. I think the critical component that allows this to work is allowing you to auto-kill weaker enemies from the overworld, a la Earthbound. The game is already pretty conservative with the amount of encounters it throws at you, so this is just the icing on the cake. I think the story really surprised me with just how emotional it ended up being. Some of it is pretty somber. Of course, I think the two main moments that come to mind are Bobby and Olivia's sacrifices. The former is arguably the game's defining moment and what propels the characters all the way to the story's bittersweet conclusion. There's so much that I could say about how perfectly these moments are set up, from the portrayal of the Bob-omb people at large to the reference to Japanese folklore with the Thousand Cranes. Most importantly though, neither of these moments come across as shocking for the sake of being shocking alone. After Bobby kills himself, they even have a good 15 to 20 minutes dedicated to the characters grieving and coming to terms with it. Ultimately, Olivia repays the favor when she uses the Crane's wish to undo her brother's creations, including herself. Should I be surprised that there's a character arc in an RPG? Not really, but the fact that it was handled so skillfully in a Mario game did catch me off guard a little. Olivia's death in particular I thought was handled really well. No long goodbyes or speeches reaffirming what we already know about the character's feelings and motivations. We've been with them for dozens of hours now, so this kind of quieter end for a character and the entire game is just so much more effective. This stuff is what's going to stick with me the most going forward, but I think it's the game's sense of humor and fun that really allow these moments to stand out. There was once or twice where I actually chuckled out loud. That's a pretty big feat, honestly. A lot of supposedly hilarious games, like much of Rare's N64 output for example, never got their humor to land with me. Origami King, however, is consistently clever and occasionally very funny. The game's look and feel is mostly top-notch, despite the developers apparently being under some pretty tight restrictions in terms of what they could do with original character designs. I'm pretty sure this is why we are told that the elemental gods of the game were transformed into origami off-screen at some point, as a way to sort of skirt around the issue. Still, it is a bit disappointing that this also resulted in Mario just flat-out fighting a stapler and a box of colored pencils. That's not to say that these encounters are devoid of personality or poorly designed gameplay-wise. I love the boss fights from a strategy perspective, but there is something inherently lame about fighting real-world office supplies against the backdrop of a world as fantastical as Mario's. My greatest hope for a follow-up game is that the team is given as much freedom to innovate on the Mario universe as they are to innovate on the Paper Mario gameplay. So yeah, overall I really like this game. It's easily like a 9 out of 10 for me. I might come back eventually and talk some more about it. There's stuff in the story that I definitely would like to expand upon more, but I'm not sure, we'll see. Regardless, shout out to my Tier 4 patron Famicom Pony, and I hope to see you all next time.